The Journal of Kael Thornweave. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Cassian's apartment as he sat at his small wooden table, Kael Thornweave's journal open before him. The leather cover was worn smooth by 3 centuries of careful preservation, the pages yellowed but intact. Elena moved quietly in the kitchen, heating water for tea neither of them would likely drink. Cassian's hands trembled slightly as he turned to the first entry. The handwriting was precise, controlled, the script of a man who understood the importance of documentation. First day of preparation. The king has approved our proposal, though I see the fear in his eyes. 73 of us have volunteered for what the scholars are already calling the ceiling. We know the cost. The texts are explicit about what anathema-class workings demand. But the Voidweaver grows stronger daily, and conventional magic only feeds its hunger. We have no choice but to become the very thing we've spent our lives fighting. Cassian felt the words resonate in his chest. 300 years separated them, but Kael Thornweave had faced the same impossible mathematics, the same desperate necessity. Cassian! Elena set a cup of tea beside him, her hand resting briefly on his shoulder. How are you feeling? Like I'm reading my own future, he said quietly. The dark veins beneath his skin pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, a constant reminder of what he was becoming. Kael knew exactly what would happen to him. He documented every step. Elena pulled out the chair beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. Then maybe he left something useful, some way to last longer, control it better. Cassian turned the page. Kael's entries were dated, each one marking another day of descent. Day 7. The corruption spreads faster than anticipated. Dark veins now visible on my hands and forearms. The others show similar progression. Magister Theron's Silverlight maintains the best control. He can sustain Void Flame for nearly 3 minutes with minimal burn. I manage 2 minutes 40 seconds. It's not enough. We need at least 15 minutes of sustained working to complete the binding circles. 3 minutes, Cassian murmured. Silverlight managed 3 minutes, and I can barely hold 2. You've only practiced twice, Elena reminded him. He had days. We don't have days. Cassian's voice was flat, clinical. We have hours. The King's Council meets at noon tomorrow. His conventional reinforcement will fail by evening. I need to be ready. Elena's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. Instead, she leaned closer, reading over his shoulder. Cassian continued through the entries, absorbing Kael's observations about technique and control. The founding mage had been methodical, documenting not just the physical corruption but the psychological changes. Day 14. I no longer feel the cold. My core temperature has dropped to 94 degrees according to the healers, yet I feel comfortable. The Void Flame recognizes me now, responds to my will more readily than conventional magic ever did. This is the seduction the texts warned about. The power feels right in a way that should terrify me. It does terrify me, but not enough to stop. Cassian's own core temperature had been 95.3 that morning. He was following the same trajectory, compressed into a fraction of the time. Listen to this, he said, pointing to an entry near the middle of the journal. Day 21. Breakthrough in Efficiency Technique. Elena leaned in, her breath warm against his cold cheek as she read aloud. I have discovered that the corruption rate can be reduced through a process I term essence cycling. Rather than allowing the Void Flame to consume in a linear fashion, one can create a closed circuit, drawing power from the soul bond while simultaneously redirecting a portion of the corrupted essence back into one's core. This creates a buffer effect, slowing the burn rate significantly. Does he explain how? Elena asked. Cassian turned the page, finding a detailed diagram. Kael had drawn the human form with ley lines marked throughout, showing the flow of essence and the points where redirection could occur. Annotations covered the margins in tight script. It's like recycling, Cassian said slowly, studying the technique. Instead of just burning straight through my essence, I create a loop. Some of what's consumed gets filtered back, purified slightly by passing through my remaining uncorrupted channels. Would that work? Elena sounded skeptical. Can you purify corruption? Not purify. Dilute. Cassian traced the diagram with one finger, feeling the logic of it. The corruption is permanent, but if I can slow the rate of new corruption by reusing what's already tainted, I might extend my working time significantly. Elena was quiet for a moment. What happened to him? To Kael? Cassian turned to the final entries. The handwriting had deteriorated. Still legible, but shakier. The letters less precise. Day 43. The sealing is complete. 68 of our number are dead. 5 of us remain, though remain may be too generous a word. We are changed, corrupted beyond recognition. The king has offered mercy, a quick death while we still retain enough humanity to accept it. Magister Silverlight accepted this morning. I watched the light leave his eyes and envied him the peace. I have declined, not from courage, but cowardice. I am not ready to face judgment for what I've become. The healers estimate I have perhaps a month before the corruption consumes the last of my rational mind. I will use that time to document what we learned, so that if this horror must ever be repeated, those who come after will have some guidance. To whoever reads this, I do not regret the sealing. The kingdom stands because of what we did, but understand the true cost. You will lose everything, your body, your mind, your very soul. The question is not whether you will be consumed, but whether you will accomplish your purpose before that consumption is complete. Do not expect to survive. Do not expect redemption. Expect only to serve, and pray that your service is sufficient. The entry was dated 3 days after the sealing. Cassian turned the page, finding one final note in a barely legible scrawl. Day 46. Can no longer remember my sister's name. The corruption has reached my memories. Soon there will be nothing left but the hunger and the darkness. I have requested the king's mercy. Tomorrow, if I still possess the will to accept it. The journal ended there. Cassian sat in silence, the weight of Kael's final words pressing against his chest. 3 days. The founding mage had lasted 3 days after the sealing before the corruption stripped away even his memories. Cassian. Elena's voice was soft, careful. You're not going to last as long as he did, are you? He should have lied. Should have offered reassurance. Instead, he found himself speaking with the same clinical detachment that had claimed Kael Thornweave. No. I'm burning faster, compressed timeline, more intensive practice. If I manage to complete a sealing working tomorrow night, I'll be lucky to have 48 hours of rational thought afterward. Then we don't do it, Elena said firmly. We find another way, more magisters, conventional reinforcement. Elena. Cassian turned to face her, seeing the fear in her green eyes. You know there is no other way. The king won't authorize forbidden magic. Conventional workings feed the Voidweaver. I am the only option, and I'm barely adequate for the task. Then I'm coming with you. Her voice held no room for argument. When you face the Voidweaver, I'll be there. No. The word came out harder than he intended. You can't help with the working, and your presence would only distract me. I need to know you're safe. I need to know you remember who you are. Elena grabbed his hand, pressing it against her chest so he could feel her heartbeat, steady, warm, alive. Kael forgot his sister's name. How long before you forget mine? The question struck deeper than any blade. Cassian thought of his own sister Liana, tried to summon her face, her laugh, the way she'd looked at him with such pride when he'd been accepted to the academy. The memory was there, but distant, as though viewed through thick glass. I don't know, he admitted. The corruption is already affecting my recall. Small things, what I ate last week, the name of a professor from first year, gaps where there should be information. Then we anchor the important things. Elena pulled out a small notebook from her bag, opening it to a blank page. Write down what matters, who you are, who you're fighting for. When the corruption takes your memories, you'll have this. Cassian stared at the empty page. What could he write that would matter when his mind was gone? What words would reach through the darkness? But Elena was waiting, hope and determination warring in her expression, and he couldn't refuse her this small request. He picked up the pen. My name is Cassian Netherbane. I am 22 years old. I am using forbidden magic to save the kingdom of Ardenvale from the Voidweaver. His hand paused. What else? What defined him beyond this desperate mission? I have a sister named Liana. She believes I am a hero. I am not. I am a weapon being forged from corruption and necessity. Elena Brightwater is my anchor. She sees me as human even when I no longer see myself that way. If I forget everything else, I must remember that someone believed I was worth saving. He set down the pen. The words felt inadequate, but they were true. Elena read what he'd written, her eyes glistening. You are worth saving, Cassian, even if you don't believe it. Before he could respond, someone knocked at the door. 3 sharp raps that cut through the moment. Cassian and Elena exchanged glances. He wasn't expecting visitors, and few people knew where he lived. The knock came again, more insistent. Cassian rose, tucking Kael's journal under a cushion on his worn couch. His hand instinctively moved toward his focus, feeling the cold iron ring pulse against his finger. The dark veins beneath his skin stirred, void flame eager to answer any threat. He opened the door to find High Inquisitor Mordain standing in the narrow hallway, his gray eyes unreadable. Magister Netherbane. Mordain's voice was formal, but something in his expression suggested urgency. I apologize for the intrusion. May I come in? Cassian stepped aside, allowing the High Inquisitor to enter. Mordain's gaze swept the small apartment, noting the teacups, the scattered papers, the carefully controlled chaos of someone preparing for war. Elena. Mordain nodded to her with what might have been respect. I'm glad you're here. What I have to say concerns you both. Has something happened? Cassian asked. Another ward failure? Not yet, but the timeline has changed. Mordain's jaw tightened. The king has moved the emergency council session to tonight, 8 o'clock. He intends to order the conventional reinforcement immediately afterward. Cassian felt the world tilt. Tonight? That's in 3 hours. Yes, which means the reinforcement will begin by 9 and fail by midnight. Mordain's gray eyes held Cassian's. You have less than 12 hours to prepare, not the 24 I promised you. Elena made a sound of protest, but Cassian was already calculating. 12 hours. 1 more practice session? Maybe 2 if he was willing to risk severe corruption burn. Time to study Kael's techniques, to attempt the essence cycling method. Not enough time. Never enough time. Why did he move it up? Elena demanded. Another wardstone failed an hour ago. The Southern Market District. Mordain's expression was grim. Casualties were minimal, but the panic is spreading. The king believes a show of immediate action will calm the populace. It will kill them, Cassian said flatly. Every magister who participates in that working will be feeding the Voidweaver. They'll accelerate the collapse. I know. Mordain's voice held barely suppressed frustration. I argued against it. Archmage Verena argued against it. But the king is convinced that sufficient conventional power can hold the line. He's wrong. Yes, but he is also the king. Mordain stepped closer, lowering his voice. Which is why I'm here. You need to be ready to act tonight. Once the conventional working fails, the wards will collapse completely within hours. If you're going to use what you've learned, it has to be then. Cassian met the High Inquisitor's gaze, seeing the weight of duty and desperation in those gray eyes. Mordain was giving him permission to commit treason, to use the very magic he'd spent 30 years hunting. I'll be ready, Cassian said. Mordain nodded slowly. I've arranged for you to have access to the catacombs tonight. The royal crypts will be unguarded between 11 and midnight. The sentries will be reassigned to ward reinforcement duties. Use that window. You're helping me break into the palace, Cassian said, the absurdity of it striking him. You're actively enabling this. I'm ensuring that when the kingdom's last defense fails, there is one more option available. Mordain's expression hardened. But understand this, Magister Netherbane. The moment you use anathema-class magic in the field, where others can witness it, my duty becomes clear. I will hunt you, I will find you, and I will bring you to justice. I understand. I hope you do. Mordain turned toward the door, then paused. Kael Thornweave's journal. Did it help? You knew it contained practical techniques, Cassian said. That's why you kept it sealed. I kept it sealed because it's a manual for damnation. Mordain's voice was quiet. But damnation may be preferable to extinction. Use what he taught you, Magister, and pray it's enough. The High Inquisitor left, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. Elena was beside Cassian immediately, her hand finding his. 12 hours, she said. We need to get back to the catacombs. You need to practice the essence cycling technique. 1 session, Cassian agreed. Maybe 2, if I can manage it. Then I rest, prepare, and hope I'm ready when the wards fall. He retrieved Kael's journal from beneath the cushion, holding the leather-bound volume like a talisman. 300 years separated him from the founding mage, but they walked the same dark path. Kael had succeeded in sealing the Voidweaver, but the cost had been everything he was. Cassian would pay that same cost. The only question was whether he would accomplish his purpose before the corruption consumed him completely. "Let's go," he said, tucking the journal into his coat. "We have work to do." As they left the apartment, Cassian felt the Voidweaver's attention settle over him like a shroud. The ancient entity was watching, waiting, patient as stone. It had faced 73 mages 3 centuries ago and survived. Now it would face one. The mathematics were impossible. The timeline was catastrophic. The cost was absolute, but there was no other choice. There never had been. Cassian descended into the afternoon streets, Elena at his side, carrying the weight of Kael Thornweave's final words and the knowledge that tonight, one way or another, everything would change.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.